Hello there, and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're so glad you decided to join us. We're here every week. We meet interesting people in dealing with topical issues, and today we're going to learn about the Oklahoma Blood Institute.
Yes, it's an institute that collects blood and that makes it available in the community, the hospitals and the like. And it's a fascinating organization, extremely well run and unbelievably important. We're all owners. We need to be donors.
That's right. It's a very integral part of operating inside a community. So it's more about the Oklahoma Blood Institute. Today's topic on The Verdict.
America has been here before, faced with daunting challenges, and we've always found the courage to lead. Foreign oil, greenhouse gases, we have the power to do something about them with American natural gas. Chesapeake is forging ahead, converting our fleets to clean-burning natural gas vehicles, encouraging others to do the same. Welcome to America. Chesapeake, America's champion of natural gas.
Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma, working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. Wilsey, Meyer, Eatman, Tate in Oklahoma City and Tulsa.
Bow my head to pray. I know you hear each word I say. I'm pouring out my heart to you like water. I have faith, I have faith, I have faith in you.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guest.
Today we're really pleased to have two guests from the Oklahoma Blood Institute to talk to us about that fine organization in Oklahoma City here and statewide. On my right is Dr. John Armatage. He's the CEO of the Oklahoma Blood Institute. Dr. Armatage did his undergraduate work at Yale, did his MD work at Duke University, took training in transfusion medicine at the University of Texas. He has served in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Virginia, and we lured him finally to Oklahoma to head up the Oklahoma's version of the Blood Institute called Oklahoma Blood Institute. He came to Oklahoma in 2007, and we are sure glad he would join us on his first visit to The Verdict. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Ken.
On my left is my boss, a colleague of mine at Crowe Dunlevy, Evan Vincent. He's an attorney, of course, but also is a board member of the Oklahoma Blood Institute. Evan did his undergraduate and law work at the University of Oklahoma, where he graduated with distinction. He is in private practice at Crowe Dunlevy and does litigation work and intellectual property work. He's a board member of the Oklahoma Blood Institute and has a distinction of being the grandson of one of the founders of the Oklahoma Blood Institute, Dr. Reinhardt. He's a member of Leadership Oklahoma, the Young Adult Leader Program. Evan, sure glad you came.
Thank you so much.
Glad to have you.
Thank you both for coming on the show. And let me start with you, John. Talk about the overall need for blood in America and in Oklahoma.
The need for blood is constant. There's no replacement for blood. You have to have it on the shelf when somebody needs blood. So it's a year-round need, but particularly the summer and the deep of winter are two times when we struggle a little bit, mostly because of holidays. High schoolers and college kids are just fantastic at giving us blood, but they take vacation, they go off in the summer or over the holidays in winter, and that leaves us a little bit short. And certainly people get busy with other activities in summer, and some of our blood drives are a little bit smaller than usual.
Are normal supply-demand parameters involved in this type of work?
There are. We want to make sure that we produce enough to keep the shelves full, but not outdated. Good stewardship means if somebody donates with us, we don't want to have that expire on the shelf. Blood has an expiry date like milk or something else
And
biological.
what is that expiration date typically?
42 days for a red cell unit, but only 5 days for a platelet unit. A platelet unit is used for somebody maybe with cancer or trauma or maybe in surgery. It helps the blood clot. So that's just-in-time manufacturing because we take a day to test that unit and then it only has 4 days shelf life. So we're always in need of those donors to keep the pipeline full.
And on the demand side, is the demand going up or down?
It's going up slightly. The population is aging on whole because of the aging baby boomers in particular, and there are new surgeries and techniques, particularly in cancer therapy, that tend to require a little bit more blood support.
Doctor, we see new medical developments all the time with the artificial hearts, all kinds of artificial limbs. Is there any research going on for what I'll just call artificial blood?
Yes, it's been an active area for probably 40 years, but they've yet to produce anything close to Mother Nature's own. Mother Nature has produced a wonderful product that we all produce ourselves for ourselves, and science has yet to master reproducing that on scale that would make it a substitute for having people come out and give blood themselves.
Where is that research taking place?
It's global. There have been hundreds of millions, billions spent on trying to find a substitute, but right now it's just too complicated a problem.
Are there parts of the world that have shortages of blood supply?
Oh, definitely. Africa, the developing world, a lot of places rely on replacement donors. So if you're going to have a surgery, you have to recruit your own blood donors to bring in those 4 units you might need. That's not a very good system. For example, if you have an accident, you don't necessarily have 4 people already identified who will rush into the hospital for you. So a developing world struggles a lot with that. Fortunately, in America, we've got a wonderful donor base. People want to help neighbors, and we've got a sound supply here. OBI actually has a global blood fund. We allow our donors not to take the T-shirt or the giveaway item that we're using as recognition for their donor, and we substitute what we would have used to purchase that item and let a contribution go to the developing world to build their blood supply.
Evan, tell our viewers who can donate, who's eligible to donate. What kind of eligibility requirements are there?
Typically, if you have a healthy person who's 16 or older and weighs at least 125 pounds, that is your base requirement. If you're 16 in Oklahoma, you have to have a parent's permission to give. But then there are other things that may disqualify you if you're on certain medications or if you've had tattoos or piercings or anything. And OBI at a blood drive, before it's collected, you'll have to fill out a standard form and identify these types of things. But for the most part, anybody can give.
Let me ask you about the tattoo. That's something I never heard before. Does that disqualify you forever
No.
for being a blood donor?
No, it does not.
No, it does not. I believe it just disqualifies you for a year.
That's correct. And if you went to a licensed parlor, you're not disqualified at all. We've got some inspection systems in the state that we rely on to make sure that the needles were safe and the process was safe. And that's what we're really after, to make sure that a person didn't have a tattoo that might have caused them a risk, which could cause a patient a risk if that blood were somehow contaminated. So most people who've had tattoos will be eligible for us after those checks are made.
You have worked in other parts of the country in this area. How does Oklahoma do as far as getting a blood supply and running its infrastructure?
Oklahoma is flat out amazing. This is, in terms of the strength of the blood supply here, we're self-reliant. There are many states in the country that have to have blood imported to meet their patient needs. Our communities get behind their neighbors. I think there's a self-reliance in Oklahoma. that we see typically after something even like the bad winter we had, the storms. People come out during those very difficult times because they know somebody needs it. That's not the case everywhere around the country. So we're blessed with great donors, and we have a really good history. The Oklahoma Blood Institute is the 9th largest blood bank in the country, and it's grown up to be that size because it's dedicated to fulfilling the mission, not just of supplying blood, but also other medical activities. We've got nurses that go into the hospital and perform a specialized procedure called therapeutic apheresis. So it's a full value proposition for the community. And
I'm assuming that blood is banked at individual hospitals and medical care places. Are there other places in the community where blood is stored, or is it just at the medical facilities?
Well, we have a store as well. We have a central repository to keep those hospitals supplied, and we have sub-centers also that keep a bit of the blood supply sort of advanced positioned in case there's a trauma or an emergency. For example, we have those centers in Ada, Enid, Ardmore, Tulsa, Ponca City, and Lawton.
And as for individual types of blood, are there certain types of blood that are always in short supply and that people really need to be encouraged to give?
O negative is, and all the O positive as well, but particularly O negative is probably the shortest supply for that and that's because it's the universal donor. So somebody who's coming into the hospital, they haven't been able to do the blood type yet on that person. They know that O will work, so they like to have O on the shelf. And also some of the smaller institutions who may be only doing maybe 10 transfusions in a month, O is a lot more versatile. They can cover all those patients. They don't have to stock a lot of different blood types. So O gets a lot of use.
And what percentage of Americans would have type O?
45%. Fortunately, it's the most common type as well, but even that being the case, it's heavily used.
Evan, briefly tell us about the founding of the Oklahoma Blood Institute.
Well, in the mid-'70s, there was a group of doctors in the Oklahoma County Medical Society who identified the problem. They would frequently have to cancel surgeries because there wasn't an adequate blood supply here in Oklahoma City. And so these doctors got together and decided that they were going to set up an organization in order to cure this problem and have a safe, steady supply of blood. And so in 1977, they founded the Oklahoma Blood Institute. They started a center here in Oklahoma City. I believe there was also one in Lawton at the time. And my connection to that, as you mentioned earlier, is that the president of the Oklahoma County Medical Society at that time was a neurosurgeon named Dr. Don Reinhardt, who was my grandfather. And the facility took off. 2 years later, they brought in Dr. Armitage's predecessor, Dr. Ronald Gilcher from Pittsburgh in 1979, who ran it up until 2007. And since that time, it has expanded across the state of Oklahoma and also within the past 10 years into Texas and most recently into Arkansas. And so now it has grown, and as Dr. Armitage said, we're the 9th largest in the country.
Evan Vincent, John Armitage here discussing the Oklahoma Blood Institute. More with them when we return on The Verdict.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
Every time our country imports energy, we're saying we've lost confidence in our own.
But Oklahomans know, under the land of the free lies the energy to be brave.
Advanced technology has led to vast discoveries of oil and natural gas that have doubled America's supply estimates.
Using one well to do the work of 10 in half the time, we're proving that America's best answers will always come from inside our borders.
Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, advancing our state, empowering our nation.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers and our guests who are discussing the great work at the Oklahoma Blood Institute.
When we took the break, Evan was telling us about the geographic area, doctor, that you serve. Can you expand on that a little bit? You're beyond the borders of Oklahoma to some extent.
Yes, we do business as Arkansas Blood Institute in the western part of Arkansas. That's new for us. That just happened last year. We had a chance to acquire a couple of blood centers out there. And then we go a little bit into Texas in the Wichita Falls area, and we do business there as Texas Blood Institute. And for the state of Oklahoma, we cover the whole state. We don't do the Panhandle. That's covered by a blood center out of Amarillo. And then we do about 85% of all the transfusions, supply those. And the area where we don't have quite as much market share is northeast part of the state.
John, you're a nonprofit,
That's
yet you don't actively ask people to give money. Where does your revenue come from? How do you operate?
Well, we are contracted with the hospitals. They essentially give us the resources to recover the costs of collecting the blood. So a unit is given to us. We like to say the blood is free to the hospital, but the blood bag it comes in, we have to pay manufacturers for that. So we're basically passing on those costs for them, and we recover from the bills to the hospital.
Is that a similar business model to what other blood institutes operate at?
Absolutely. That's the standard across the whole country. So all the blood centers really work on that same nonprofit.
So is there no government subsidy then that's traceable?
No, only when you think about the patients who are getting the care get Medicare and Medicaid, but that's there's no direct subsidy to us at all.
Okay.
Evan, tell us a little bit about the size of the organization, how many employees you have, where you're located, that sort of thing.
Yes, we are located within, how many different subdivisions do we have in the state, Dr.
We have 6 subdivisions, 6 subcenters, and we're headquartered in Oklahoma City, but we have big operations in Tulsa and Lawton, Enid, Ada and Ardmore. I created a new city there.
Well, you aid more.
Yeah, there you go.
And we have approximately 700 employees through all of our centers. We also have a place in Wichita Falls, Texas, and then, as Dr. Armitage said, in western Arkansas. And we collect a little more than 200,000 units annually, which requires quite a bit of management.
Well, if you had an optimum collection year, would it be more than that? Would you collect more than 200,000, or is that about what you can handle?
That's a pretty good balance for us right now. As I mentioned earlier, stewardship's a huge part of our board's responsibility and management responsibility, that if somebody donates with OBI, we're not going to let that expire or go to waste. We're going to make sure it has a home if at all possible. We have some of the lowest outdate rates in the country. Again, that stewardship really goes through the whole organization, where everybody's mission is to make sure that we don't over-collect and we don't under-collect, and we have a good, safe supply.
Evan, talk to us a little bit about the board. What kind of decisions reach the board that you guys routinely act on? What kind of managerial responsibility do you have?
We will oversee the operating budget and take advice from the officers as to the some of the more, I don't quite know the best way to put it, but the decision to expand into Arkansas recently is the best example I can think of, the most recent. To purchase these hospitals and integrate them with an OBI system, we will evaluate. OBI has a real mission. It's to serve people in Oklahoma. It was started by those doctors who really wanted to reach out and help the patients, that being the first the first goal of OBI. And so that's the process the board will look at in this Arkansas transaction, is to see, do they fit in well with our mission?
Well, now, you're obviously not a doctor. I suppose there are other non-medical professionals on the board besides yourself.
Yes, there are. Now, I would say the vast majority of the board is made up of medical doctors. However, we have people from the banking industry, from the oil and gas industry. I believe I'm the only lawyer on there, but we try to get a wide view of perspectives on the board.
Are there competitors? Is anyone else offering blood to hospitals?
Yeah, the American Red Cross, I worked for them for 10 years. Their operation out of St. Louis provides blood through a distribution point in Tulsa.
And are there others?
Coffee Memorial out of Amarillo serves the Panhandle counties, and really those are the.
Are there any for-profit blood organizations?
No, one of the successes of OBI from its very early days was getting the for-profits out of the business. It's a great charitable activity, and we don't need shareholders or owners getting involved with it. It's better done as a community resource.
Now, I know you do more at the Oklahoma Blood Institute than just receive blood and send it on to the hospital. You have other activities going on, public health activities.
Yeah,
can you tell us about those?
Absolutely. Public health is a wonderful area for us because it allows us to give something back to our donors, who are obviously being very generous in giving us blood. We screen, we give a mini health physical. When somebody comes in, we'll take temperature and blood pressure. If somebody's got elevated blood pressure, they'll have a chance to pick that up. We do screening for high cholesterol on every donor. We'll run a total cholesterol. So those are some of the things we do. We've also done some pilot work with diabetes screening, particularly in the southeast part of the state, which has picked up new diagnoses for folks who didn't know they had diabetes, as well as folks who knew it. We give them a chance to find out they're maybe not in the best control. So that kind of giving back some of the data that we're able to pick up off a donation. We've now got a website where you can track these numbers, so it's all graphically displayed. Ideally, you can show your primary care doc or your physician and say, here's how I've been running, here's what the management looks like. So hopefully get us integrated a little bit into the donor's health care.
Now, when a person's blood is tested, for instance, the doctor takes blood to run a certain test, that is a different organization that handles that aspect of the
Absolutely.
blood care.
Absolutely. We, when you donate with us, we take a sample at that time. We're required to by federal regulations. FDA monitors us. So we make sure that at the time of that donation, when we test it for hepatitis and HIV, that the unit is as clean as we know how to measure for. So, but yeah, we do not collect other samples really, or integrate with some of the other great labs that serve the state. So.
And Evan, what would you like people to know about the Oklahoma Blood Institute in the few seconds we have left?
Just that it is one of the most worthwhile organizations you will ever come across. People give of themselves when they give blood, and it is truly about helping your community. And it saves lives. There are stories on our website, stories all over the place that have been out there where it's very real and it does save lives.
And John, 30 seconds to ask people to continue to help.
If you want to make a difference, a life-saving difference, come out. We'd love to have you give of yourself for a neighbor in need. People will be impressed that you're able to come and help a neighbor, save a life, all within an hour, and we'll give you some cookies as well.
Well, I think our viewers learned a lot today about the Oklahoma Blood Institute, so thank you both for sharing your time for this great cause and for coming on The Verdict and explaining what you do.
Yeah, thanks for the good work you're doing.
All right.
Thank you so much.
And Kent and I'll have a final word right after this.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're wrapping up a show about the Oklahoma Blood Institute. Sure does seem like we're well served with this organization.
Well, indeed. It's kind of a, to me, it was a brand new story. I knew about the Institute, but had no idea about its scope or how it operated or how successful it is and how, frankly, how efficient it is. And what a wonderful service it's providing to our citizens at no charge to the citizens, at least in getting the product into the blood bank.
Over 700 employees, too, and that's a pretty large group.
It is, and they've got a huge mission, keep that blood safe. And they apparently just do a fine job, and they are also involved in medical research and other public health issues that serve the community well.
I thought it was interesting they mentioned that one of the ways they measure the success of the organization is how little waste there can be, because they don't want that blood to expire on the shelf. They want, if a person gives blood, they want to make sure it gets used.
Yes.
We have some website information. You can get more information about the Oklahoma Blood Institute by heading to their website. It is obi.org. That's obi.org. And we'd love to have you visit our website at theverdict.tv. You can go to that site and tell us about a person or a show topic that you'd like to see right here on The Verdict. Until then, we'll see you next week. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. We'll see you next time right here on The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.